where the women of America have the freedom to make decisions about their own body and not have their government telling them what to do.
Today, we're going to dismantle Kamala's abortion lies that even some conservatives have fallen for. Welcome back to the JP Reacts channel, my beautiful freedom-loving friend. This is where we like to call out the lies, hypocrisy, and corruption of tyrants, and Satan shine the light of awareness on woke absurdities and highlight the amazing work of other freedom fighters, because truth conquers. How ridiculous is it that Kamala's whole campaign was run on killing babies? That is just ridiculous. And we probably have all seen the tweets and the reposts of the tweets of what we might say are some insane beta male liberals talking about, like, I just voted for Kamala because I want to make sure my daughter has the right to an abortion. Then we see them getting ratioed in the comments like, dude, you voted because you want to make sure your daughter can get raw dogged irresponsibly? Pretty weird how, like, abortion is such a major political issue, and it was the main thing Kamala ran on. Now, unfortunately, she didn't run on it based on truth. There were significant lies that certainly were meant to manipulate liberals into voting for her, and many of them did. However, her lies have actually negatively affected conservatives. Conservatives have fallen for some of her lies. We'll get to that in a second, but first I'll just say this. If you want to know my full take on abortion, I'm not going to share it with you here. You can take a look at this video I put out on abortion. It was 2 years ago. It's I Was Wrong About Abortion, Why I Changed My Mind. Over 1 million views on it. It's not even a comedy video, but it's on my comedy channel. And I'm guessing my views on abortion might surprise you a little bit. They're not the kind of groupthink conservative views, and they're certainly not liberal views on abortion. It's something I have a unique way of thinking for myself on. However, I'll just say this as we start the video. Can we finally just put to rest the absolute absurdity of questioning, like, okay, is it abortion? Well, it's not a baby. It's not a baby. So you can kill it. No, it's a baby. It's a human being. Like, the issue is whether someone wants to kill that human being or not. That's the issue. But it's a human being. Well, I don't know. Do we call it a baby? It's an embryo. Yeah, it's a human. Humans are called different things at various stages of development. It's an embryo. It's a fetus. It's a baby. It's an infant. It's a toddler. It's a prepubescent adolescent. Then it's a puberty adolescent, then it's an adult, then it's a middle-aged adult, then it's a geriatric, and then it's a dead person. Those are all different names describing human beings. It may not be a baby, it may be a fetus if we're using the accurate language that describes a human being at their various stages of life, but it is life and it is a human being. Nonetheless, if you want to see more of my thoughts on actual abortion itself, check out this video on my main channel, I Was Wrong About Abortion, Why I Changed My Mind. One of Kamala's lies about abortion is, hey, elect me. I'm gonna change the abortion law. We'll see in a little while. She has no power to do that. But check out, words out of the horse's ass's mouth.
Let me ask you, you've talked about codifying Roe v. Wade. That would obviously require 60 votes in the Senate, a majority of the House. That's a big leap. We don't have that yet. If that's not possible to codify it in the House, what do you do?
I think we need to take a look at the filibuster, to be honest with you.
She has no power to change. If she was elected president, even vice president, she has no power to change the abortion laws. More on that in a little bit. Now, I can't help but get a little sidetracked and just get a little immature with this woman who lies through her teeth. I would say her campaigning on, yeah, abortion rights for everybody. You know, we gotta overturn the overturn of Roe versus Wade. I don't even think she cares about that. I think she just cares about telling people what they want to hear to try to get them to vote for her, and it didn't work. But take a look at her hypocrisy right here. That came in my favorite speech she ever gave, which is her concession speech.
Where the women of America have the freedom to make decisions about their own body and not have their government telling them what to do.
That is not important to her because her government was telling those women and men what to do with their bodies. Take this shot that you don't want to take or else you lose your job. And many women lost their job because her government was telling women what to do with their bodies. She is a lying hypocrite. We'll get back to the video in just a second, but first, my friend, I want to let you know Bond Charge is having their blowout Black Friday sale starting now, where you get 25% off all Bond Charge products. And that includes their amazing red light therapy devices. In my life, I'm using the Supermax red light full body panel all the time and the red light face mask. Recently, you might have heard both Joe Rogan and Dana White raving about red light therapy. A lot of people have seen Dana White just absolutely reverse his aging process. He's gotten so healthy, and he attributes red light therapy to be one of the major factors that have helped him turn his health and his aging process around. The anti-aging effects of red light therapy on the skin alone are massively impressive, so much so that I've started to incorporate using the red light face mask because I'm 43, I'm getting older, but that doesn't mean we've got to look older as we get older. And I use the Supermax red light panel all the time because I'm always looking for ways to reduce my stress, increase my cellular energy, sleep better, reduce inflammation, recover faster from exercise and injuries. There's a reason why the biohacking community has been raving about red light therapy, and there's never been a better time to bring it into your health routines with Bond Charge's Black Friday 25% off deal. To take advantage of it now, go to bondcharge.com/JPReacts and use code JPReacts to save 25% off on all their products. Once again, that's bondcharge.com/JPReacts. And for the Black Friday 25% off special, use discount code JPReacts25. Enjoy. Now back to the video. Her campaign built on killing human beings through a procedure called an abortion is maybe not only a little vile, it was incredibly dishonest, where she shared so many stories. Women are getting killed because they have like an issue, they're going to have a miscarriage, but they can't get, even though they don't want an abortion, they can't get the abortion actual medical intervention to save their lives. And I've talked to conservatives who have heard enough of her rhetoric that they actually believe it. Where I've talked to some conservative women who are like, yeah, I am a little concerned. Like, you know, I'm not all about like, let's celebrate abortion, but there's times where to save a woman's life, it's a necessary procedure when various medical things happen. So there is a little video I'll show you that will dispel those lies. Senator Lankford questioning an expert witness to help dispel these lies of Kamala that have unfortunately misled and, dare I say, maybe even harmed the American public. Take a look.
Are there any states where women face prosecution for having an abortion?
No.
Are there any states that criminalize miscarriage?
No.
Or that care for for a miscarriage?
No.
Are there any states that criminalize removing an ectopic pregnancy?
No.
See, these are the medical issues that I've heard very well-meaning women who they know a lot about birth. They raise these issues like, yeah, that concerns me. You know, I live in Texas, and what if that needs to happen to me or a friend of mine? Because they were unfortunately influenced from the propaganda of the Kamala campaign.
Are there any states that prohibit life-saving care for the mother?
No.
Are there any states where women have to be actively dying for a doctor to be able to act for her care?
No.
There's been a lot of rhetoric in this that I'm concerned pushes people away from getting access to health care. Vice President Harris, in a speech recently, said that women were being arrested and facing prosecution for experiencing miscarriages. Ms. Sackler, do you know of a single instance where a woman has been arrested for having a miscarriage or getting health care for that?
No, treatment for miscarriage is allowed under the law, and there have been instances where I think that one example of that's been pointed to is misleading because the woman, I think she was in Ohio, The charges against her were not abortion related.
Did you die from COVID or did you die with COVID? Oh, you got charged with criminal charge. Was that abortion related? Miscarriage related? No? Oh, but you had a miscarriage. And you got you. That's we're gonna classify that as that's a miscarriage, criminal charge.
So it's misleading to use that as an example.
It's not only misleading, but it scares women away from getting access to health care. And it leads women to not go get healthcare treatment when they desperately need it.
Now, before we take a look at a great insight that I think sets a lot of the abortion debate, federal level, no state level, to rest from J.D. Vance himself. This man is incredibly intelligent. It's such a wise take. Before we get to his take, we're going to get to another wise take from Megyn Kelly, who's talking about how, Kamala she campaigned on this whole thing of vote for me and I'll get abortion rights reinstated at the federal level. Well, guess what? She couldn't do that. Even if she was elected president. Let's hear from Megyn Kelly on it.
I want you to know, women who are thinking about voting for Kamala based on abortion rights, she cannot pass an abortion law that covers all 50 states. She neither has the power nor the votes to do that. You lost when the Dobbs decision came down, and no Supreme Court is going to overrule Dobbs. They may overrule a precedent of 50 years ago. They're not going to overrule one that was handed down 2 years ago. What you need to do is accept the half a loaf you've been given. And pro-lifers, my advice applies to you too. Accept the half a loaf you've been given. It's not a federal law. It's not a federal issue. It's not a constitutional issue. It's a states' rights issue. Get out of the states that have the bans if this is very important to you. Otherwise, be glad that we are back to the 50-state experiment.
And this 50-state experiment that the founders envisioned, I think that's important to remind ourselves of, that the states having the power is very important, because the more power we give to the federal government, the more that we saw the past 4 years can happen. Totalitarianism starts to happen. Minimizing the power of the federal government is empowering to the women. It's empowering to the men too. I'm an equal opportunity offender here. So what the liberals would never tell you, what Kamala would never tell you with her campaign based on lies about abortion is this. When she's out there saying, we want to empower women, what she wouldn't tell you, she probably doesn't realize it because I believe she is clinically stupid, is that when any given issue is up to the state, it's not up to the state judges, it's up to the voters of the state. That gives the women in that state and the men in that state more power. When it's up to the federal government, that removes the power from we the people and puts it in the hands of the federal government. Because the Supreme Court, when they established, Roe versus Wade, that wasn't legislatures establishing that were elected by the people. It wasn't state legislatures establishing that were elected by the people. And it certainly wasn't the people directly voting on it. It was purely the power of the federal government making that decision. And we'll see one of the most feminist, pro-abortion, pro-choice Supreme Court justices actually thought Roe versus Wade is bad law. Here she is. We'll hear J.D. Vance talk more about her in just a second, but Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Roe was heavy-handed judicial intervention that was difficult to justify and appears to have provoked, not resolved, the conflict. So again, if you want to empower women, then letting states decide their law puts the power more in the hands of the women. When it's in the hands of the federal government, there's no power to the women. They might agree with what the federal government dictates to them in that instance, but it's ultimately power taken away. It's like saying, hey, I like free speech only when it's what I agree with. So when you see big tech censoring things and you're a liberal, you're like, yeah, I'm glad they're censoring that. You can't say there was this or that or people dying of myocarditis and strokes. I like that they're censoring that. No, you like that you agree with it, but you're not going to agree with everything once you hand over more and more power to totalitarian control. So let's throw it over to J.D. Vance and his take on this when he appeared on the Joe Rogan podcast.
That's not something we're trying to do, but it's interesting to me that how much people focus on the religious element of it. Because if you go back to the Roe versus Wade debate, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was a feminist icon and was very pro-choice, she thought Roe versus Wade was terrible law.
Why did she think that?
Because, basically because of the argument that often, sort of Republicans will use about making it a state issue, is she said, look, you can be pro-choice, as Ruth Bader Ginsburg was. The avenue to make abortion policy should be legislatures, not judges. So it was a procedural argument about how the Constitution functioned, where it's funny, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg actually agreed with Donald Trump that this should be a state's issue, that the states should make these decisions.
Which is saying the people should have the power, not unelected people in the federal government, because the Supreme Court justices, they're not elected. They're appointed by other government officials. With that said, Kamala did a little damage with her rhetoric about abortion during her whole campaign, so much so that it's even confused and worried conservatives. With that said, I would dare say Kamala might be guilty of the dreaded misinformation, which is just a made-up word. Misinformation is basically saying lies, but in this case, it's actual lies. That's what I have to say about abortion right now. Let me know your thoughts on this topic, and please type them out in the comments below in all caps, because this is an issue we're supposed to get hysterical about. So all caps it is. I'll look forward to seeing you on our next video, but until then, keep your power.